AI, in this case, the tool, right, that we'd be talking about, the tool always has to follow the decision. So, what are you trying to learn? Are you diagnosing reputation risk? Are you validating message credibility? Or are you demonstrating impact on stakeholder behavior? And so, when you look at a media monitoring platform, right? That can't answer the same questions as a stakeholder survey or as a reputation model. So AI tools add speed and pattern detection, but they don't determine relevance or strategic importance. And that's where organizations fall behind because they choose tools based on what looks impressive or shiny charts or, something that is fundamentally selected by a person who will be working with it a lot for their user experience, as opposed to the results that you're going to be able to drive from that. And so, organizations that lead and choose tools based on what informs leadership decisions, right? What are those objectives that we're trying to measure for? Those are the ones who will be able to define the purpose of what they're doing. And, using a single tool, including AI, including, any of the other elements that are fed into some of those AI models, it's like diagnosing an illness with a thermometer and you get the number, you know what your temperature is, but it doesn't take into account what your blood pressure is, that you've had pancreatitis, like whatever that case might be, you have to factor all of those things in. And so the right tool is the one that answers the business question, not the one that produces the most charts. And the best tool in everyone's tech stack is critical thinking. That is the best tool to answer the business question by using and correlating all of the data that AI can synthesize for you in a more meaningful way. There is a reason why at AMEC we are undertaking a data quality initiative that is steeped in the rigor and the efficacy and the methodological purpose of how people are pulling in data to understand what they're trying to accomplish. And, first and foremost, AI does not generate truth. It detects patterns in what you give it. It's for communicators, the data usually comes from earned media, social content, sometimes research, sometimes historical data that they're able to correlate in there. But if those inputs are biased, incomplete, poorly governed, right, when we think about the governance of the data, AI will produce confident looking insights that are very wrong. And so, when Rob Key from Conversing is talking to us about data quality, it strikes a chord in your heart because you're like, yeah, this is critical. And it's critical to get right at the beginning because that's what sets the baseline for transparency, for bias control, for consistency, and for that clarity. Because without those controls, right, AI creates the illusion of intelligence while compounding errors and compounding the slop or the garbage in, garbage out, whatever we want to call it. But AI on bad data is like a lab test on a contaminated sample. The results look scientific, but they tell you absolutely nothing. And so you can't be so defined by that packaging because AI does not and will not clean your data. It does amplify it, and that means for the better and for the worse in some cases if there isn't a good structural integrity and, a good methodology as you're collecting it to begin with. Bias is unavoidable in any and every model because it reflects the data and assumptions that built it. So the danger is pretending AI is neutral. And that goes into, whatever prompting you're using, whatever personas you have there, it is all based on a bias benchmark. So it isn't neutral. So your prompting has to take and uncover what some of those biases are as much as you can. And that's why it's important and talking about comms professionals understanding who is represented in the data, who is missing in the data, and how some of those assumptions shape the results, both in prompting and in aggregation of content. Because ethical use of AI means testing outputs, it means diversifying inputs and outputs of what you're looking to do, documenting the methodology. So if there is a question, if there is a situational need that comes up, you can either at that point define, yes, these historical results would apply, or no, they don't, because we have very clear methodology and this type of situation was not considered as part of that. And so it really boils down to ethical use of AI is around testing, documenting, keeping humans accountable for what the model produces and what the model has exposure to. Because, you know, introducing dirty data just makes all of the data dirty. And so organizations that only report on activity rarely even detect bias because, it's so mundane around the counts and amounts and how it's synthesizing those numbers. But organizations that are really working on value, the value of communication, the value of PR, those are the ones who are actively questioning whether the data reflects real stakeholder reality. And stakeholder reality means also taking in contrarian viewpoints at scale. So it means you can be repulsed by X, but if any portion of your stakeholders are there sharing their opinions, sharing their thoughts, sharing what is resonating with them, you need to be listening. Because an AI model without bias controls, I mean, it's like running a survey without checking who was sampled and just be like, we got these results allegedly of all people, but they're really bots. And so those percentages can look very precise. They can be compelling. They can be, the great opening to a story. But it's not a story that is real. It's not a story that matters. And so, if you don't control bias in your data, AI will scale it and not solve for it. It's understanding what is and isn't possible within your organization, within your data. Generally, the very generic answer is AI delivers efficiency, humans deliver trust. And so that's really around why the AMEC integrated evaluation framework is proving to be timeless in the times of AI because it is taking real business outcomes such as confidence, behavior, license to operate, research and development, and AI can surface what changed, right? Humans decide how to respond. They're the ones who are looking at credibility and validating some of those answers, and then using their expertise for how to engage stakeholders, which is that really critical piece. And so organizations that are reporting activity, they will show faster dashboards, but organizations that measure value show better long-term decisions, stronger relationships, and reduced risk. So AI gives you the map, right? But not just a map of your route. It gives you a map of the United States, and the human gets to choose the route to avoid the cliffs, right? We've all seen those early GPS things where it's like, turn right. It's like, there's no road there. Turn right. And so if you only do what the tech tells you, it doesn't have that update. And this is very similar because AI speeds up insights and it's up to the humans to protect their reputation.